What's up, Guardian? Now, we don't usually cover the TWABs. There's plenty of people out there in the community that do cover the TWABs. That's not our lane. But what I did want to highlight in this week's TWAB, we got some good juiciness for all of my PVE enthusiasts out there. We're going to dive into the cliff notes of the updates, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think and what I'm excited for in Season 19. First things first, we're tackling Solar 3.0. One of the first things that Bungie mentioned is that they're pretty content with the potency of Radiant and other components of the Solar 3.0 kit in the current sandbox, but they did want to do some updates to the fragments. For those fragments, they are Ember of Torches as well as Ember of Solace. What we're going to see for Ember of Torches is a base cooldown, so you're about to get that back faster and that'll be better for your kits. And with Ember of Solace, you'll now get an additional 50% bonus. Next up, for all my Hunter mains out there, there is a little bit of a nerf. Bungie is saying that they're a little bit uncomfortable with the status of Blade Barrage because it is one of the highest burst DPS in the game right now. So there actually is going to be a bit of a nerf. They're going to bring that down with the bonus Blade Barrage damage that you can get. But with Golden Gun, it's now going to provide a 15% bonus damage resistance to both Deadshot as well as 15% bonus damage resistance to the Marksman Golden Gun. So actually be able to have Golden Gun as a more viable option in the Season 19 sandbox. Last but not least, Celestial Fire. There's going to be an increase in the close range melee damage from 90 to 100. So it is a slight boost in stats, and it's going to allow you to be more viable in close range melee fights. I don't know why I keep saying boost. I mean buff. Y'all know what I mean. Next up, we have Void. If you didn't know, the Void Overshield for Titan was actually only impacting at 25%, where it was actually supposed to be intended at 50%. So one of the first changes here is that it's going to get a buff, in a sense, to that 50%. Next up, we have Void Walker. Void Walker is going to get a much needed buff for the Nova Bond Vortex. Not only is it going to be faster, it's going to be increased by 21%. The radius is going to have a bigger pool, approximate bigger pool in for enemies, as well as it's going to have a higher strength. So overall, really good buff for that. Sentinel Titans, it's a little bit more of a fix just to make sure when you're doing your shield bash that there's actually suppression being applied and the hit marker is registering correctly. And last but not least, with the Hunter class, because Divinity is getting a nerf from 30% debuff to 15%, RIP, but not really, Divinity's still going to be useful. Bungie's actually going to make Deadfall with the Hunter subclass a little bit more attractive. So not only are they going to increase the tether lifetime from 8 to 12 seconds, which in a boss fight, that's a hell of a lot of time. And then also for Mobius Quiver, it actually getting a little bit of a nerf from 8 seconds to 6 seconds in terms of their duration. So again, the trade-off there being with Deadfall, you are going to get a larger amount of time with the debuff from 8 to 12 seconds. Next up, we have Arc. Arc 3.0 is super potent right now, and so rightfully so, we could have seen that some of these nerfs are going to come in. One of the first nerfs is going to be the Thunderstorm Grenade. It has been super OP with champions and just a lot of in-game content where it probably shouldn't be as powerful. So there is going to be a duration nerf from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, as well as a slight limit placed on Spark of Magnitude from the Enhanced Storm Grenade from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So again, just limiting a little bit of the duration and the damage output that is possible with Storm Grenades just because they are so powerful right now. Also continuing on that trend, they covered Ballistic Slam. So Ballistic Slam, which hasn't been as much of a viable option, or at least maybe not as an attractive option, especially with the Thunderclap build that has been going around in the community. Ballistic Slam is actually going to get a damage increase against PVE again by 16%. So now Ballistic Slam is now going to be a more viable option in most of the Titan kits. For Hunters, and Hunters Arc 3.0 kit is already strong enough, but Tempest Strike in Season 19 will begin a slight increase against PVE combatants by 30%. I said slight, but that's not slight. But Tempest Strike, already super powerful, already pretty viable in a lot of different kits that you have for the Arc 3.0 Hunter, and this is actually going to be something that's available there as well. Last but not least with Arc, the subclass that honestly got the short end of the stick with everything in Arc 3.0, Arc Soul will now begin an update in damage, the base damage, specifically from 35 to 60 in terms of the damage that's available there. For Ball of Lightning, it'll have increased travel range from 27.5 meters to 35 meters. So again, there's a little bit more viability in how you're approaching different PvE engagements with that extra additional range. Same thing. And then Chain Lightning, they're increasing the damage against PvE combatants by 50%. So again, we all know, or at least most folks acknowledge, that Arc 3.0 and Warlocks really wasn't the best package that was attractive out there. A lot of the Titan packages and the Hunter packages were more viable and more attractive. So these things should actually be super viable in Season 19. Although we're not getting the much needed buff to the Tickle Finger super for the Warlock class, they are buffing Chaos Reach. And so it's going to be a buff in terms of a reduced cooldown. So to be able to get it back faster from 9 minutes and 16 seconds to 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Again, knowing that Blade Barrage is so powerful, Silence and Squall is so powerful. There's a number of other powerful supers out there. Chaos Reach, badly in need of a super buff, is not going to get that buff in Season 19. Last but not least, everyone's favorite problem child, Stasis. Now, we've all seen Stasis go up and down in terms of the buffs and nerfs. For Season 19, there's going to be an increased movement speed penalty to be slowed by 10%. So again, if you're getting slowed, it's going to be an increased penalty by 10%. For cold snap grenades, these grenades can now adjust their trajectory 0.5 seconds after creation. So what it means that these grenades are now going to be marginally smarter. Instead of just throwing it at the ground and it goes to where your enemy last was, now it's going to take 0.5 seconds to think about it and then actually more intelligently track the enemy target. So skipping down to some of the other PVE related metrics for Revenant Hunter, Witcher Strout, that fragment slot increased from 1 to 2. So again, your kit is expanding, have some more viability and more options available to you. And then for Behemoth Titan, I don't know who's been using Behemoth Titan in the past like 52 years, but Cryoclasm is now increasing its fragment slots from 1 to 2. So again, you're having more options, a lot of more viability. You're doing that kit. Shadebinder, Bungie thinks it's in a good place. You know, that's up to your own interpretation. For Glacial Harvest, there's going to be a reduced cooldown from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. So in terms of your Stasis Shard creation, try saying that 15 times in a row, there's actually going to be a reduced cooldown from 15 to 10 seconds. And last but definitely not least is Whisper of Rendering. It now provides bonus damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets for all primary ammo weapons. This slight boost actually gives a lot more attractiveness to the stasis option, given the fact that with the other subclass 3.0 updates, it hasn't been as attractive. It's still used, but not as attractive. So there's a lot more combinations that are available with this boost. So what does it all mean? For me, this means Season 19 is going to be probably, cross fingers, one of the best seasons that Destiny has in a long time. With all the subclasses updated to the 3.0 format, with the fragments, the aspects, all the exotics we have, both weapons and armor, we're going to be in a really good place as Guardians to really test out our skills, have a lot of different opportunities to build in different combos and opportunities and build crafting. And overall, power creep conversations aside, being a really cool spot to not only engage in the power fantasy of Destiny 2 and all the space magic and all the glory, but also really get to test out the skills as a kind of level playing field in terms of the comparisons, since everything will now be in the 3.0 format. Things are getting some nerfs, things are getting some buffs, and we'll actually get into a sandbox, which I think is a little bit more fair. Take that as you will. So again, this is just a quick breakdown of today's TWAB. Really excited about the PVE changes and hope that you all stay tuned for more updates here. Thanks. Peace.